Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, architect of all India services, the first Home Minister of India, envisaged the setting up of the National Police Academy.
An organization driven with a vision of the future. It is the abode of IPS officers, trainees who will lead and command the police with courage, uprightness, dedication, and a strong sense of service to the people.
The National Police Academy is the focal point for training the IPS probationers in various spheres. And one such significant domain is equitation.
Equitation or horse riding is a mandatory part of the basic training of IPS officers, being an important aspect of public order management. Various tactics are followed during management of crowd control by mounted police. The success of the mounted police tactics will depend upon the size of the crowd, location, and area available for dispersal, time, strength of the police force, etc.
A competent mounted police person can replace approximately 20 foot patrol person in a crowd control situation. The mounted police units also have an added advantage of mobility and maneuverability over the foot police person in dealing with various situations.
For public order management, the strategy of mounted crowd control includes preparedness of mounted column in full gear, attention, diversion, quick response, follow-up action. The right control gear consists of horse head visor, chest plate, knee guard, tendon guard, coronet boot, body quilt, and rider gear.
Mounted drills include walk, turn on haunches, turn on shoulders, and half pass. The mounted formations consist of single file formation, double file formation, wedge formation, single cross, double cross, and in threes.
Despooking techniques are those techniques which are used to condition the horse with different environments so that the horses are not frightened by adverse situations like loud noise, jet pressure sound, commotion, sounds in traffic, and event management including fires on football ground, near injured persons, helipad, at various entrance gates, at band processions, and on non-rhythmic movements. Proper utilization of the mounted police can save many law and order situations from going out of control. The speed of the mounted police is greater than normal foot patrols. Speed of movement and surprise can have a shock effect on the public.
Mounted police units are capable of operating up to distances of 50 to 80 kilometers in different types of terrain. The patrols can move at an average speed of 7 to 10 kilometers per hour, which is much more than what an average dismounted policeman can do.
Mounted police may be deployed in the public order context to achieve the following objectives: display of strength, applying pressure at close quarters to hold or ease back a solidly packed crowd, protecting buildings from a hostile crowd, opening gaps in a crowd, or separating sections of the crowd by the measured use of the weight of horses, dispersing a crowd using impetus by causing scatter effect, dispersing a crowd using impetus and weight to physically push back a crowd.
There are many tactical maneuvers that are available for mounted police units to deal with law and order problems. This will greatly depend from situation to situation and from place to place. Sufficient number of horses are required to create an effect on the public. The powerfulness of a 600 kilogram horse, together with its controlled manipulation by a properly trained police officer, and the respect accorded to the horse by the public, make mounted patrol units very effective in crowd control situations.
Maneuver 1. Display of strength. Display sufficient number of mounted officers behind police deployment. To be effective, a minimum of a section of 10 horses is required. They advance 5 abreast at a deliberate pace to the place previously identified and stop facing the crowd in 2 ranks. An overt display of long batons carried in an at-rest position adds to the strength.
Maneuver 2. Mounted officers at the second line of defense before buildings. Sufficient mounted officers are necessary to cover all entrances. The gap between foot police cordons and the building must be sufficient for the horses to be out of missile range. Placement of officers before the crowd arrives creates a good impression of preparedness. If this is not possible, the mounted officers should be brought up in a deliberate manner. Horses should not be brought out if petrol bombs are being used, and foot officers with fire extinguishers should be available.
Maneuver 3. Close contact cordons. Placing mounted officers behind line of foot police and withdrawing foot officers through it. As the horses approach the rear of the foot cordon, in close order, line abreast, the foot officers disperse outwards between the horses, allowing the mounted officers to fill the vacated space.
Maneuver 4. Placing a mounted cordon in front of foot police by filtering in from the flanks. The horses advance from the rear in a single file on either flank of the foot cordon. The mounted officers turn across the front of the foot cordon, closing together. Foot officers retire, maintaining their cordon at the rear of horses.
Maneuver 5. Placing a mounted cordon in front of foot police by entering the center of the police line. Mounted officers approach the foot police from the rear, in pairs, at the center of the police line. The foot officers in the center open outward to allow the passage of the horses through. The horses then turn outwards, the foot officers dropping back progressively to reform behind the mounted line.
Maneuver 6. Placing mounted officers across the face of the crowd, which may be oncoming, to form an initial cordon. This can only be attempted when there are sufficient mounted officers to cover the front of the hostile crowd. When the horses are head-on, shoulder to shoulder. The horses advance on the crowd in double line abreast. If the crowd is stationary, the horses in the front rank stop.
Maneuver 7. Cutting off the flood of an advancing hostile crowd by introducing mounted officers from a side street. The horses are brought into double or greater formation in the side road, and when ready, ridden across the path of the crowd so as to seal off the neck of the junction.
Maneuver 8. Putting a mounted wedge into a crowd to divide it. To split or detach a section of a crowd or to disperse part of the crowd, the horses approach the crowd in a shallow wedge formation, supported to the rear by foot officers.
Maneuver 9. Putting a modified mounted wedge into a crowd to open a gap between it and a police line or building. The mounted officers form up in a wedge to one side of the building or one end of the police cordon, using the building or cordon as one arm of the wedge.
Maneuver 10. Mounted officers advance on a crowd in a way indicating they do not intend to stop. The mounted officers form up in a double rank, line abreast, facing the crowd, and advance together at a smart pace towards the crowd. Foot officers stand well aside to let them through and reform behind, following at the double. The horses stop at a predetermined place, foot officers forming up behind. If missiles are thrown, protected officers are brought through the horses, which are then in a position to repeat the maneuver.
Maneuver 11. Combining a rapid advance of mounted police with foot police. Mounted officers with their horses formed in line abreast advance on the crowd, followed by shield units, jogging behind the mounted formation. When the horses make contact with the crowd, the foot officers with shields are in a position to make any necessary arrests.
Maneuver 12. Sweeps. Systematic process by which officers, usually working in line abreast, clear areas of members of the public. To clear a street or area working from one end or the center of disorder outwards. Mounted officers form up at one end of the area and progressively move forward, requiring individuals and groups to depart in the intended direction. The progress should be at a slow and steady pace.
Maneuver 13. Sectorizing an area with foot police and sweeping systematically with mounted officers. Mounted officers move into the first sector and by cantering and milling around, clear the sector, which is then held by foot police, whilst the mounted officers clear another area. The area held by police is thus gradually extended.
Withdrawal of mounted officers to reinforce the state of normalcy. That a state of normalcy is being reached and situation is under control. Happy riding!